Peace. It's me, Tamara. I'm back with another video. It is 3 in the morning. Let me see what time it is. No, it's 5 in the morning. I don't know why I thought it was 3. It's 5 in the morning, but I'm back with another video because I want to go into part 2 of my evidence that these people have been attacking me and basically terrorizing me for my whole life. But I knew it was, I just found out it was them probably around 2014. Um, Tamara's, my foster mother's daughter, had a baby in September of 2014. I was living in Virginia. Excuse me, I was living in Arkansas. At this time, I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas, because I left Seattle in 2005 and I didn't come back until 2013 to actually live. I came back to visit every once in a while, stay some months with my brother here and there, but I never actually lived in Seattle. Well, and when her daughter had this was the first grandchild from her daughter, she called me and she had her friend get the what are they called? The buddy pass. One of her friend worked at the airport and they got a buddy pass for me and they had me come up to Seattle on a one-way ticket, saying, you don't really have a job, so you can stay here as long as you really want, if you want to. And we'll, when you're ready to go back, we'll just get the ticket back. So I said, okay. So I came up and I met the little baby. He's so beautiful. And I ended up staying until my birthday and they threw me a surprise birthday party. Um, and at the surprise birthday party, they were like, Tammy, you need to stay in Seattle. You need to come back and just go ahead and live in Seattle. Why are you living in Arkansas? We're all here. And I was like, no, I don't really want to. I'm waiting for my disability. I've already transferred my disability to Arkansas, and I want to wait to see what the results are going to be. And this lady, Tamara, she was like, well, I'm your mama. You need to come on up to Oregon and be with me. I'm getting ready to buy some property and you sell herbs. You have an herbal business, so you can come up to Oregon and, me and you could be selling stuff. I'll sell my, because she makes quilts and she collects antiques and things like that. So she was like, you can come up there and, we can run a business together and all of this. And throughout the years, of course, me not knowing this lady was never really my mother. I never really understood why we kind of had friction, especially being that she named me, quote unquote, named me after her. This is what they're telling me, we're both Tamara Battles, not realizing this lady ain't Tamara Battles at all. She's just stealing my identity, from being the guardian, as I proved with the paperwork in the last video. Well, I went back to Arkansas and I decided instead of paying rent that month, I was going to pack up my things and move to Oregon. So I took my little monies and I bought a bus ticket to Oregon. And I basically gave the little furniture. I didn't have a lot of furniture, but I gave the furniture I had away, and I had like 5 or 6 bags. I think I had to have a picture of like the bags lined up that I used, and I had to do the little shipping with the Greyhound. And I took a 3-day bus ride from Little Rock, Arkansas to Richland, Oregon. Well, actually Baker, Oregon, because where she lives in Richland is a very, very small town and there's nothing up there. Nothing at all. It was like 5 people live in the town, literally. This is like for real. It's they bought the house as a fishing, a vacation house back in the day. Her and my stepfather. So I get up there and everything appears to be fine. It's like October. So it's like the end of October. So I left Seattle like the middle of October, got to Arkansas and was like, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and move. And, my mom was having mental issues and things like this. And she was kind of looking, she was in some bad shape. So my brother and her daughters were like, yeah, we want you to go up there kind of to keep an eye on her too. So I told the people at the apartment that I lived at, hey, I'm going to be moving to keep an eye on my mom. She's kind of sick. And they let me out of my lease. Well, actually, they did charge me, but I broke my lease because I had been living there 6 months and my lease was for a year. So I moved up there in hopes that me and her could mend, a relationship, build a relationship, and, like she said, just kind of relieve some stress and be around family, while I'm waiting for my disability to kick in. Well, I got my disability transferred up there. Here's paperwork. You can see. There goes my name. That's the address where the mail was delivered in Oregon. You can see it says December 15th, 2015. So I got there in October. Then November, December came around. And she was, I don't even want to get into this lady's personal business, but it was all the way crazy up in the house. She was really going through it. And I find out that a lot of it was an act, but either way, she started making accusations, telling people I was cussing her out and calling her bees and all of this stuff. And I'm like, why is she making this up? Why is she going through these changes with me? And now I realize this is part of the little evidence that they have been trying to use to discredit me and slander me. They create these circumstances where I'm around them, and then they lie on me, and then they all conspire together to act like these things are really happening. Or, there'll be a situation like, for instance, while I was up there, because it's a secluded area, it's very, very wilderness out there, most of the phone services don't work. And at this time, this was when Cricket Wireless had just became new. So this is 2014. I think Cricket Wireless came on the scene in like 2012, 2013, something like that. And the service was terrible. And now I think they're linked with AT&T, but back then they weren't linked with anybody. And I couldn't get any service. And so I was calling the customer service center, and they weren't helping me. So I had literally flew out there, and I went all the way off on this lady on the phone, right? Not knowing that Tamara is recording me having this conversation with this lady about, my bill and how, I felt like I shouldn't have to pay for services that weren't working where I was at. And I think these are the little times that she's using to try to say I was, abusing her, when in reality I was cleaning her house and doing all kind of other things. I have videos and other proof of that. And if I have to upload it, I will upload it later. But I wanted to get into what happened in January. So all of a sudden, come January 1st, she starts really getting, like hyper vigilant in her, wigging out, so to speak. And then, I had made friends with all her little buddies up there. They all loved my soap because I got this detox soap, I lose weight. And her face was like terrorized because I think the people who were working on her fireplace up there, they messed up the chimney, and so the smoke was getting into the house, and so her face was like all black, and it was really, really bad. And she started using my soap, and I started doing the little treatments, and we started making facial masks for her, and it took away what was going on with her. And so her friends were like, yeah, we want some of that. So they love me. Everybody loves me, except for certain people in these families. Everybody loves me. Nobody has a problem with me except for these people. So my brother's calling, and her daughters are calling, or at least her daughter Natasha was calling, and her friend, her goddaughter Jackie, was calling. And they were trying to, see what was going on, and they wanted me to take a FaceTime video, and I was taking FaceTime video of the house and kind of showing them what was going on and letting them know, like, this lady is really wigging out. I don't know how long I can take this, but I didn't give up my apartment to come up here and live with this lady, and she's wigging out. So come January, she decides she's going to, and keep in mind, so I'm on food stamps at this time. I've been on food stamps for many years, off and on, but pretty much I'm on food stamps. And I don't eat meat. I stopped eating meat. Well, technically now I'm like a pescatarian, you know what I'm saying? Or a vegetarian, I don't know. I eat eggs now, and I eat fish, but I don't eat beef. Um, because of what they do to the animals, and because of the chemicals they put in the animals. Well, we're up in the mountains, and I grew up going up to the mountains, being in the country and stuff like this, so I know elk meat is fabulous. It's good. It's good stuff. And actual hunters are killing these animals, versus them being in a farm and being farm raised and, being tortured. So I ate some of the elk meat while I was there. And, the hunters and stuff, they deliver it. So it's not like you can go buy it from the store. You can buy it from the store, but it's better if you get it from an actual hunter. So she had this elk meat in the refrigerator. And, I didn't mess with it at that time, but we would go because there's really no grocery stores where everything is affordable in that town. There's like a little grocery store, and like there's another town like 15 minutes up the mountain that has, I think it has like 2 grocery stores, but it's still like a high price. So you have to go 45 minutes into a 45-minute drive into Baker, or you have to go into Boise, Idaho to get some food. You got to get a lot at this time. So she goes, and we both go, and we go shopping. And I'm eating, I'm a little rabbit, right? I'm eating tweeds and weeds, vegetation, you know what I'm saying? And so we go to the store, and we take this ride, and I'll never forget it because it was a snowstorm going on. So we take this long journey into Idaho, into Boise. And then we come back, and she's my mom, right? And she's older, and she's like, whatever. So I'm the one that's taking all the groceries out of the car and bringing everything into the house and stuff. And we get I'm trying to figure out exactly what happened because it was so long ago and it was so petty I can't barely remember it. But I do remember that at the end of the day, we got everything unpacked, and she bought a massive amount of food. Even though it's just her there, she bought a massive amount of food, meat and all kinds of stuff I don't even eat. And I have my little bags of, tweeds and weeds and, carrots. I don't know what it was, some greens and broccoli, stuff like that. Stuff that if you have it in cold temperatures is going to whittle and you can't eat it. It's worthless. So what she did was she actually put my food outside, right? There was enough room in the refrigerator for my food. And I'm like, okay, all this crazy stuff that she's been doing, this is like the limit. Like, dude, we can't even get any more food after this. What are you doing? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you're going too far. At this point, you are going way too far with your craziness. And so I went and salvaged the little food that I could. And I had some bananas and stuff like that. So of course I don't put bananas in the refrigerator. I don't put them on top of the refrigerator either because they spoil quicker. So there's like this little hook or whatever thing you could put them on the. She had this thing where you could put the bananas on a hook, and it's like a little gadget you put on your table or whatever, and then the bananas just sit there on this little hook. Well, she started throwing away my food. I was like, what's wrong with this lady? You are throwing away food. I can't even get no bananas up here in the mountains like this for cheap. So, and at this time I was like at my limit. So I was like, you're throwing away my food. How would you feel if I threw away your food? Because what she did, she has an insert, a fireplace. So she, they burn a lot of stuff instead of putting it in the garbage because it's in the wilderness or whatever you want to call it. So she, I go get her elk meat. It's a hard package of elk meat. It's frozen in the freezer. And I'm like, what if I threw this elk meat in the insert? How would you feel if I did that to you? And at this point, I'm like treating her like a child because she's acting like a child. And she was like, you know, if you do that, I'm going to call the police on you. And I'm like, okay, this lady is wigging out, right? And I think it was like a couple hours later or the next day, I can't remember. But she actually started throwing some more of my food into this fireplace, talking about, oh, it's spoiled, or it's this and it's that, and all kind of little excuses she was making for wigging out. And so she likes to go to Costco, so she had these big giant bags of gummy bears. And she had one that was like halfway eaten, and it had a bunch of little crunchy gummy bears in there. And she had one that was full, it wasn't even open. So I took the little bag of gummy bears, and I took it and I put it in the insert. I was like, how does that feel? Well, what she did is she actually called the police. This is December 30, I think it was January 1st, 2015. So I had been there since the end of October, beginning of November, and here comes January, and I didn't got all my Social Security stuff transferred up there. Here comes January, and this lady is calling the police on me. Well, there's no actual police in Richland, Oregon. The police is in Baker, which, like I said, is like a 45-minute drive, and it's in the mountains, and it's snowing. Like, you can get stuck, or you can die. She calls the police to come up there. So the Baker County Sheriff had to drive up there in the middle of the night. I can't even remember what time it was, to be honest. But either way, when it's snowing like that, it might as well be the middle of the night, even during the day, because you can't see nothing snowing. And plus, like I said, you're on a mountain. So they come up there, and she tries to switch her story up, because when she called over the phone, she told him, no, she hasn't touched me, she hasn't hit me, she just put my elk meat in the fireplace, and she's, verbally assaulting me. She's making all these accusations. So I didn't call my brother, I didn't call everybody, like, this lady is really wigging out. I need you guys to be on the phone and listen to this, and one of her friends in that town came by, and she sat there and she witnessed everything as well. And my brother called her and was like begging her, like, Mom, please don't do this. What are you doing? You didn't got Tammy to move out there, and now you're going to call the police on her about some elk meat that she ain't even throwing in the fireplace? Is some gummy bears, some old dried out gummy bears, after you didn't aggravate her to this point? And he's begging her, like, Mom, he's on a speakerphone. And she had called her mom, which is my grandma, who is now passed away. And she was telling her, Tamara's doing all this stuff. Tamara's terrorizing me. Blah, blah, blah. So the police get there. And they're like, the sheriff's, they're like, okay. They, had me go to the room where I was sleeping in. And they had her tell this story. So the officer came back to me and was like, lady, your mom needs psychiatric help. And we think you need to try to get her committed. This isn't the first time that she's called the police, or the first time that, basically she didn't show her butt up in that town, because they know her, because she be drinking and stuff. She got a little alcohol problem. So they tell me, you need to stay in this room and try to figure out what you're going to do. We let her know that she cannot put you out, because she was trying to put me out of her house. She wanted them to have me be kicked out. And keep in mind, it's snowing. We're in the mountains. I didn't give up my apartment. And I don't have anywhere to go. You know what I'm saying? Like, where am I going to go? Why would you even do this? And the police wouldn't do it. The sheriff's office wouldn't do it. They gave me a business card, which I still have. And they told me on the back of the business card, they gave me the mental health number to call and to see what was up. And then she actually put my grandmother on the phone to talk to the police to, I guess, verify what she was saying. The police came back, and, they were like, we talked to your grandma, and we see what is the problem. Your grandma is part of the problem too, because she is co-signing basically what your mom is doing, and this is not acceptable. And there's, we told her, hey, you invited her up here. Why would you kick her out? We're not going to put her out. So what she did is she went and she actually opened up a court case. Let me show you. You see the date? January 15th. She couldn't get me out. So she opened up a court case. You see, she put the name. She put her little address. And like I said, this is all public. This is the actual copy that I got. because they had to come and serve me at her house. You see that? The certificate of service from the sheriff's of where I was when she put me out. She wanted them to give me 72 hours to vacate the property, right? Well, she couldn't wait that long. I think the court date was on, this was January 2nd, excuse me, I don't know why it said January 15th. It's January 2nd. So the day after the police came and told her they couldn't put me out, she went to go get a tenant eviction and made up all this craziness about what I had done to her, continuously slandering my name. What ended up happening was they before the actual court date arrived, because keep in mind the court date is in Baker. I don't have a vehicle. I'm living with this lady. How am I supposed to go to a court date with her, to get out of her house, and I don't even have a way to get there? And what happened is she has a friend, one of the sheriffs down there is her friend. Because like I said, we are a law enforcement family because of my stepdad having all this extensive law enforcement background. Well, she had this friend come and make me leave, even though the day or whatever before, the other officer told her they couldn't make me leave, and obviously she went and got this court paperwork did. She still got her friend to have me come. So at this point, I'm sitting outside of her house, bawling my eyes out with all of my property, the little meager property that I brought with me from Arkansas, in total disbelief that this lady is doing this to me. And what it was is her friend had some kind of homeless shelter or whatever in that town. She wanted me to go live in this homeless shelter. And I'm like, I'm not going to live in no homeless shelter. I didn't come to do all that. I had an apartment. So what ended up happening, she has this boyfriend that Lawrence, that she dates or whatever, and he lives with an older lady named Leona. She's like 90 years old. Now she's like 85 years old, but she's old, and he basically takes care of her. She can't really hear, she can't really see, but she's sweet, And the police took me to his house and dropped all my stuff off at his house, and so I stayed with them for a few days. She was wigging out. Those few days were terrible. I just couldn't believe that it was going on. He had an air mattress, so I slept on an air mattress. And she was actually like calling him, talking about, I think you're screwing her. You need some condoms. And she's like wigging out. So she's stressing me out, stressing Leona out, and she's stressing Lawrence out. All of this is her. And then, meanwhile, Lawrence is like, everybody in the town knows what's going on. They feel like she's like the most despicable person ever. They know that she invited you up here. They know that she has caused all this discrepancy because it's a very, very small town. And so we're having these conversations. And I didn't have any money, to go anywhere. So what she did was she gave him money to purchase me a bus ticket to go to Seattle, to go live with her goddaughter, Jackie. That's supposed to be my god cousin. And I go up there to Seattle, and I end up taking a bus. It's like January 8th, I think is the day. So I took a bus, the Greyhound. So Lawrence drove me from Richland down to Baker, which, like I said, it was still snowing. So him and Leona, this old lady, got in their car and they drove me down to the bus station, all because of Tamara and her craziness. And I took a bus into Seattle. At that time, they were like, Jackie and my little sister, which I call my little sister. I know she ain't my sister now, but Natasha, they were like, don't tell anybody in the family you're here, just kind of lay low and stay out of everybody's way or whatever. So this is January. And I get into Jackie's house in January. And I went, at this time I was like, my social security case is taking forever because I applied in 2013. So now it's like 2015 January. So I'm like, hey, and I had got denied and I did a reconsideration and I was at the stage where I had to get a hearing, but it was like, a year and a half had went by. So I went to the Senator Maria Cantrell's office and I got one of her constituents to push the issue to get me a hearing set up. So my hearing was in June. So I'm living with her goddaughter. I don't have any money. So what I ended up doing was getting on the ABD cash benefit program, the program that I'm on now. And right before my hearing, this lady, Jackie, ends up putting me out of her house. She just said, well, you've been here long enough. You need to go. I'm like, you told me I could stay here. I've helped you before in the past because she has, 2 children and, we've been knowing each other since childhood, and so I done babysat. I done a whole lot for her throughout these years. This just happens to be my time where I'm grown. Her children at this time, her oldest, I think he was like almost 18 and the other one was like 15 or something like that. Either way, I had helped her way more than she had helped me ever in life. But she wanted me to get out of her house. And so I called my brother and went to my brother's house. He was living in Puyallup at this time. And for my disability, I had people write me letters to help me out. So I asked for Natasha to write a letter for me, and I have the original letters. And then the copies were sent to Social Security. So they're there. So she wrote a letter, and she wrote me 2 letters. I want to put them both. Okay, so she wrote me 2 letters. The first letter was this. I asked her to write me a letter. She was like, well, what do you want it to say? I was like, well, just tell them know what's been going on with me and blah, 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 blah. And let them know, hey, I got hurt at work. I jumped on by the police, all of this stuff. And, how mom did me. So she wrote a letter and it says, to whom it may concern, my sister Tamara Battles has been mentally and physically impaired, disabled for the past at least 7 years. We have tried to help her, but financially and emotionally it has been difficult, almost impossible. Keep in mind, I'm in a whole nother state. They haven't financially supported me at all, not even a zero. Natasha never sent me any money. Matter of fact, when I went to jail, she put $25 on my books. And that was it. She never sent me any money the whole time I've been gone from Seattle, which was 2005 is when I originally left. So it's been like 8 years. I'm like, why would you write something like that on a piece of paper? So I read this letter. I'm like, oh, hell no. So she says she cannot work or even function day to day without help or supervision. Like, come on now. Why would you even put that? I'm like, dude, you ain't got to lie to try to get me Social Security. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to just put the truth down. You don't have to go to the left with what you're putting down. And she said her thoughts and her actions are very erratic and unpredictable and often unsafe. And I'm like, girl, this ain't on none of my doctor's records. What is you doing? I'm not crazy like that. I got PTSD. I'm not insane. I'm not, violent, nothing on my record saying I'm violent, nothing like that goes on. I'm like, you gonna do more damage than help. Why don't you just tell the truth, dude? And she said she needs disability to help her throughout life, as well as mental counselor or someone to monitor her mental processes. We have exhausted all of our personal resources trying to help. They ain't exhausted nothing. They haven't helped me with nothing. And to take care of her. Keep in mind, I'm in Virginia. I got hurt in Virginia in 2007. This is 2015 that she's writing this letter. They never offered me or gave me any help. So I'm just reading this letter. I was so upset when she wrote this letter, right? Because she wrote it on her little notepad. As you see, she tore it out the notepad. And we were in her car when she wrote it. And she said, She used to be such a joy to be around, a great worker and friend. Now we barely know what she's going to say or do next. The traumatic experiences in her life has changed her and not for the better. Please get her some help soon. Sincerely, Natasha Battles. I was like, girl, if you don't quit with this bullshit. So she wrote another letter. This one was a 2-page letter. This is the one that we actually end up faxing in. You see, it was in March. So keep in mind that incident happened in January. Well, this letter was more realistic to what really happened. I'm going to put it up there, and it can be, people can freeze it, whatever they want to do. And this is page 2. And I'm going to read it so you guys know that they are aware that they're terrorizing me. It says, to whom it may concern, Tamara is my eldest sister, whom I've had associated myself with all my life. Since she has had an issue with the government because she was attacked by the police and incarcerated and held past the allotted time, Tamara used to work 2 jobs and maintain a home, car, and stay, in day-to-day activities were normal. After these traumatic events in her life, she has not been the same. She cannot be out in the public with law enforcement because she is afraid. She has been homeless since her incarceration and has not been able to work since before she got injured at work. And her hand got debilitated. Ever since, she has had little to no use of her right hand, which is not all the way true, but I have had little, I had to really go through a lot to get my hand function to a degree where I can even use it on a day-to-day basis. My sister has changed dramatically emotionally since her abuse by the police. She has no interest in the government or anything that stands for because she is deathly afraid of her rights being violated or abused. That's not necessarily true. We were raised in a house with a father who was a governmental employee, and it's not that I don't like the government. I don't like these employees that are doing this illegal activity because I know that it is not a part of the government's policy for the things that they're doing. So it's more the workers in the government, not the government. And she said she went, the second page, put it up there again. She went to live with our mother to get help, and our mother lied and emotionally abused her and falsified a police report, which we know it's this one. Everybody knows all of this was false. I never even went to that court date because I got out of there by like the 9th, by the 8th of January. And as you see, the court date was for the 9th of January. And it says, on her base on lies. No, falsified, called the police on her based on lies. This made my sister's condition even worse. She's been couch surfing every day since, and she really needs stable housing and support. As you see, his letter is on the 15th. This is the little 1-page letter she had previously wrote with the date of the 12th. Matter of fact, yeah, when she gave me the letter, I went back to her and was like, girl, I can't believe you would even write something like that. Well, now that I know what I know, I understand what's going on because me and Natasha had got into it a few times as well. And when I had came to visit Seattle, I think like in 2013, my brother Nelson told me that Tasha's, at that time, he was her ex, but he was like with her longtime boyfriend, Daryl, had said, had called my brother and was like, don't let Tammy come stay with you. You don't need to be helping Tammy. Natasha sent Tammy a bus ticket, a Greyhound ticket, and Tammy didn't come on this Greyhound ticket. She cashed it in because she's on drugs. And I'm like, well, I don't do no drugs. I don't even like taking Tylenol. I'm a herbalist. And so this really upset me. So when I got into town, I had Nelson because him and Daryl were friends too before him and Tasha started dating. And so he called Daryl on a three-way, and Daryl told me this with his own mouth. He said, yes, Natasha told us that she sent you, she had been sending you money, and that she sent you a bus ticket, and you cashed it in so you could do drugs. I was like, oh, hell no. And then my cousin Mary told me that Natasha, like every month, Tasha would go to her and say, yeah, I just got through sending Tammy some money, even though she was living with our stepfather at this time, because our mom, the mom and dad had broke up. And she was living with Papa and his new girlfriend. And she wasn't paying no rent. She wasn't paying no bills. She was there supposedly trying to get her little life together and pay off her debt, her own personal debt, and whatever she had going on. She's never sent me a dime. Like I said, she sent me $25 when I was in jail and put it on my book. She never sent me any cash. She never sent me any bus ticket, nor did I ask her for a bus ticket. But these are the lies that these people were telling everybody in Seattle about me, that they were financially supporting me. Meanwhile, I'm literally homeless. I have multiple people who can tell you I stayed at their house. I have multiple addresses that I have received mail at while I was gone. As you saw in the last video, my workers' compensation report, you see, I got hurt in Virginia in 2007. They have not been helping me. Matter of fact, they cashed checks in my name that came from my workers' comp. That's why that $49,000 I didn't have any knowledge of that was going to Tamara's sister's house. And Tamara's sister thought it must have been her sister, Tamara. Which she know this lady's last name is not Battles, it's Freeman. So these people have been terrorizing me for a very long time. I just wanted to get that out the way. There's more, even my medical records I wanted to put in there, that when I went in 2015, I had to start doing mental health treatments. And like you see on there, I put on there that I had been attacked by these people. And they had been doing all of these things to me. That was a part of my actual report of what happened. My friend, I have a friend named Terry. He wrote a letter on my behalf. It says January 2nd, 2015. I wanted to read it. He sent it. This was received by the Social Security. These are records that are on record with Social Security. It says, this letter is in support of my friend Tamara A. Battles that has applied for Social Security disability. I have known her for over 20 years. I don't know, we knew each other for 20 years, but it's been at least 15. I met him at the shipyard when I was working for Todd's shipyard. Now it's called Biggers. But I met him back in, matter of fact, yeah, I met him like in 2004. Because I left the shipyard. I started the shipyard in 1995. And then I left, and then I came back because, I'm on the union and I have journeyman status from working at the shipyard as a laborer and a painter in Virginia. But in Seattle, I was a laborer. And it says, either way, she was very enthusiastic and responsible worker. Then she relocated to a shipyard in Virginia where things started to go very bad for her. Tamara was involved in a job-related injury accident. The equipment assigned to her was defective and resulted in her being severely injured, which resulted in several surgeries and trauma resulting from the incidence of stress from legal issues during the aftermath. Tamara soon after became homeless in various locations in Virginia and other southern states. Distant family members invited her to stay with them, only to use her as a live-in housekeeper, babysitter. She experienced assault by a police officer and was jailed for some time. I have been in touch with her over the years and helping her financially when I could. My friend Terry did send me money. It wasn't a whole lot, but he would send me like $50 here and there. He did help me. My family didn't help me. I suggested to her to get examinations in concern for her health since she had lead paint injected into her hand. I believe she could be having some healthcare psychiatric issues as a result from work-related acts incident and the assault by the police. Tamara came to Seattle at the request of her siblings and her mother. I witnessed firsthand how she was treated by her grandmother, mother, and other relatives, criticizing, talking down to her with a smile. No one genuinely offered her help or financially, just a sofa to sleep on if she could watch their children or clean their home. This became frustrating for Tamara, and it tied her up for some time during business hours to keep her from the social service agencies. My observations of my friend is that she became more distrustful of people, particularly her family members, uncomfortable around law enforcement. I believe she suffers from post-traumatic stress. I remember her being a pleasant person to be around, always smiling and greeting people, outgoing, open-minded. I do not see that in my friend anymore. Life and the adverse experiences she has suffered throughout is wearing her down, spirit and life force. Tamara needs stable housing, health care, and psychiatric care. I pray that your decision is a swift and favorable one for my friend Tamara Battles, and it's signed Terry Hogan. You can see this letter is in my Social Security files. It was written January 13, 2015, shortly after the incident that got me into Seattle. Well, I actually have a letter from my brother as well. He didn't personally write the letter. He actually dictated the letter, and his stepdaughter wrote it out. And it was faxed in March 19, 2015. You see, these are faxed documents. And I just wanted to read the letter really quick so you can see even my brother knew that they were terrorizing me. It says, "This to whom it may concern, this letter is for my sister Tamara Battle. She has been through some pretty intense life-changing experiences about 10 years ago. Tamara left Seattle to work as a contractor for shipyards in Virginia. She ended up getting hurt pretty bad by a faulty valve on a paint pump. She spent 5 days in the hospital and had 3 surgeries on her hand. She wanted to come home, but had to stay in Norfolk for therapy. She became very untrusting and very secluded. This was really out of character for my sister. There were times when we would not hear from her for weeks or months. About 2 years ago, she came home to stay with me and my family. During that time, we had many conversations about things and that she had been through a lot, and I saw how it affected her. The lack of support from our family made her feel abandoned. I think the family realized that she was suffering mentally and was not as strong as she usually is. Tamara couldn't even talk about it without getting extremely emotional, appearing to be so sad and very agitated, becoming clear to me that she might have developed a mental break of some sort. And her outlook on life changed dramatically. Her job never called her back to work, not even for light duty. Previously, she would do office work, but her hand kept her from being able to go back to that type of work. Also, losing the ability to support herself, she became homeless in a state far away from home. All these years later, she is still not working and homeless. She barely slept for more than a couple hours sporadically. I was happy when she told me that she had applied for disability and she started her mental therapy. and that appeared to relieve some stress. My sister has always been independent and supported herself. She was a journeyman laborer at the shipyard and made good money. Not being able to go back to work has changed her lifestyle, and it has been almost 7 years now. I think that she needs assistance to get back on track. She really needs a stable living situation. Living on couches and having no freedom and privacy is taxing. She has offered shelter in exchange for service. Unfortunately, people are only helping her if it benefits them first and foremost, which I have experienced the same thing in myself. I hope this letter um, helps you to better understand some of the things that led Tamara to her current situation. And my brother signed the letter and he faxed it in for me. And like I said, this was March 19th. I got a little emotional because, you know, these people have terrorized me and it's ridiculous. And my brother was pretty much the only person who would help me. So after he passed away, I asked his friend, because he has a best friend, to write a letter on my behalf because I was being attacked by the family. And he got it notarized for me and dropped it off to me and gave me a hug. So I wanted to read the letter that came from Burnell. It said, "To whom it may concern," this was March 23rd of 2017. It says, "Nelson and I were close friends for 19 years. During that period of time, we both faced similar but different obstacles in our life. The great thing that was that we both endured some of the same experiences and learned from each other's accomplishments and mistakes. For many years, I considered him as my brother and got to know him and his immediate family. I was also there for Nelson to achieve the goal of bringing his family back to the state of Florida after hardship. His immediate family were guests in my home," he's talking about my brother, his baby mama, and his children, "for 3 months before achieving his personal goal to be with his children for the last years of his life. During this period, Nelson was in the hospital suffering from a stroke. His sister Tamara Battles would stay the night with him, tending to his medical needs and other outside responsibilities and obligations for his home front and daily life responsibilities. Nelson cared for his sister Tamara Battles the most out of all his other siblings. We know why, because I'm his only biological sister. We didn't know this at the time, but Nelson cared for his sister Tamara Battles the most out of his other siblings. He just never appreciated her telling him what he should be doing in his life in a stern way. He didn't like me being big sis to him, talking, saying what I had to say. Which I wish he would have listened to me. He might still be alive today if he had listened to me about some of the advice I gave him about the stress he was under, especially dealing with his baby's mama, especially dealing with the fact that he died at her house. Nelson also deeply loved and cared for his mother and two other sisters, but harbored secret negative feelings toward his mother. He didn't appreciate the fact of her giving him the cold shoulder at the worst times of need, because not only were they terrorizing me, they were terrorizing him. Like, as he wrote in his letter, he had been through some of the things I had been through. And he was a longshoreman. He was making more money than me. These people have set up situations to occur where we have both been homeless. As you see, his friend said he had to stay with him because of the baby mama wigging out, doing things like my mother was doing. And he didn't appreciate the fact of her giving the cold shoulder in his worst times of need. For him, there were several unanswered questions and conspiracies about many things, from his biological father and his mother's financial state, from the cause and effect of his father passing while he was a kid. This is something we've always talked about. In the years 2013, Nelson fell short on his luck, causing him to become temporarily homeless. During that period, he would sleep outside in his vehicle for months. Although he was employed, he felt more compassion could have been shown from his mother financially at the time of need. Nelson also loved his youngest sister, Natasha, but had many stories of troublesome, conflicting experiences within their childhood together. Because of these troublesome adolescent memories with his younger sister, Nelson made an effort to have moderate contact with his sister Natasha, but always willing to go the extra mile for her if he had to. Nelson did not have much contact with his older sister Nikki Battles. The relationship was full of arguments. The two could just not come to terms with each other, thoughts on racial issues and more. But both had totally different They both had totally different opinions and outlooks on life. His immediate family was filled with females and full of drama. Several minor incidents would occur, from some of them constantly talking negative about him behind his back, which they did with me as well. The reason why I know these things is because I was there, and he got it signed and he got it notarized in March. So I have several, and these are not the only evidences I have of what these people have done to me. I just wanted to put this out here to let you guys know that I'm not making this up. This is not something that's new. It just got out of control after my brother died and they took over his case. Like I said, Nikki, and as you see from his friend, he actually said it as well. My brother and Nikki hadn't even talked. My brother had at the time his second son was 5 years old. When my brother passed away, Nicole had never even seen the second son. They lived in Seattle. I wasn't living in Seattle this whole time. They lived in Seattle together. And she had never even met his son, 5 years old. As soon as my brother died, Nicole decided to take over my brother's case on the behalf of her mother. Like I said, she went and got a power of attorney over the name Tamara Battles, using a previous address I had lived at, in efforts to help her mother, which had been terrorizing my brother too, and terrorizing me. You see the documents, the evidence. Even her own daughter admitted she terrorized me. The police records show that she terrorized me and made false police reports, calling the police, first saying that I threw her elk meat in the fireplace, which I did not, threw gummy bears, and then two, trying to add on to it once the police got there, saying that I had physically assaulted her. And the lady was like, ma'am, you called in and you said there was no physical altercation, so you can't switch up what you're saying. So these people have been trying to create a terrible record for me and my brother, because Natasha, when Nelson was homeless, Natasha told Nelson he could stay with her for a time. Well, she called the police on Nelson because she was dating, I think now her new, now the baby's daddy that she has now. But at that time, whenever this was, like 2013, 2014, she was just first dating him. Well, when she would have date night with this guy, she wouldn't want my brother there, so she wouldn't let him come in the house. And he couldn't even sleep. He was stressed out. And she called the police on him, trying to get him arrested. And he was hella mad. I'll never forget this. And I told him, Nikki and Tasha are bad news, because Nikki, actually, when I was, I think 18, me and her, I was 17, almost 18. Me and her moved into Papa's condo, which was like down the hill from the house we grew up in. And she called the police on me when I turned 18. Now I know that she called the police on me and actually went into a court case and filed falsified documents, collecting money in my name. And according to my credit reports, that name has been on my, that address where she was living at has been on my credit report for years after I moved out of there. And two, like I said, I was like 18. I wasn't even using credit at that address. So this lady, Nicole, called the police on me. And because there was a physical altercation, she jumped on me and I defended myself. But because, it was domestic violence or whatever, and we're family, they had to take somebody to jail. So at that time, they took me to jail. and she didn't press charges, but the state picked up charges. And that was my first experience going to jail or even having any dealings with the law enforcement, was the falsified police report that Nicole did on me when I was 18 years old. I moved out of that apartment and I stayed away from Nicole ever since. That was in 1996. And I have left Seattle in 2005, and I had very little dealings. So I have had basically no dealings with Nicole since 1996. In 2000, when my brother died in 2017 in January. I kept on saying 2016 all over the videos, but it's 2017, January, if you forget what year it is. But when I went and set up the estate case, once I realized the fraud that was going on, Nicole, and Nelson's baby's mother went into my brother's estate case and made all kind of falsified claims in that case to try to take jurisdiction over it, because they had some insurance policies that they wanted to cash. And like I said, shortly after that, I opened up that case, I got deathly ill. I still was able to do the letter to the creditors, and I was able to file the affidavit of publication into the court case and get everything in there. But I really wasn't able to do too much about the slander and stuff. I just didn't have the energy for it, because I'm still dealing with the DSHS office, still dealing with Social Security, still dealing with being sick, with going to the ear, nose, and throat doctor about my illnesses. So I haven't had time to really deal with what they have done to me. Because like I said, I've been dealing with mail fraud as well. And I know these people are behind everything that's going on with me. Because like I said, recently Nicole actually called my cousin in Arkansas and told these people that I have I don't work, I've never worked, and they're like, okay, we know her. They're like, she stayed with us, she's been living with us, she's been down in Arkansas for almost a year or two. We know her. So these people know me more than this lady saying she's my sister, because I haven't had any contact with this lady since 1996. But she's talking to people like she really knows me. Telling people I've been to prison, that I was in prison in Virginia. My incident in Virginia was a misdemeanor. It was a traffic violation. She's telling people I've been to prison. And she's telling people that I'm mentally insane and dangerous and violent. All of these things that are made up. So these videos and just doing this whole situation is very stressful. Just even repeating this, just having to think about this, especially after my brother died. Knowing that he did try to help me, and knowing that he had a mysterious death of his own, and knowing that they've been terrorizing him like they terrorized me. I just want to have the evidence out there, because I know these people are making up multitudes of stories, and I really don't know what the stories are until people come back and tell me. So I'm putting my own story out there. So this is part 2 with my evidence and proof of the terrorization that I have received from these people. Thank you for listening. Peace.